Hey everyone, it's Jenny. Today's episode, it's personal and honestly, it's kind of unbelievable because it's my love story. It's our love story, mine and Brian's. But now before we dive in, let me be real with you. I wasn't always a big believer in romance and romantic stories. I didn't grow up swooning over romance novels at all. I was more of a solve the case kind of girl. Think a lot less Romeo and Juliet and more find the body and interrogate the neighbor. I am a full blown mystery lover. The kind of kid who thought happily ever after was catching the killer in chapter 12. Let's just say I was a proud flashlight wielding member of the amateur sleuth fan club. Nancy Drew was my girl. Dateline, my Friday night vibe. Who done it? That was my love language. So yeah, Valentine's Day, never really hit the mark. Flowers wilt, chocolate melts, and Cupid needs better aim. Love to me always felt a little overhyped, but then there's Brian. And here's the thing, if someone had told me years ago that I'd end up back in the arms of my high school crush after decades of silence, misunderstandings, and actual legal advice, I would have laughed and gone back to my true crime podcasts. But life, or maybe fate, had other plans. So Brian and I, we had something real when we were young. We just didn't know it then, and we didn't know what we were feeling. There were rumors, heartbreak, time, and silence for decades, so much silence. But life pulled us apart, and that's where the story starts again. This episode is about that journey. It's about two people who thought they'd closed that chapter, somehow found their way back to the same page. It's about twin flames. It's about soulmates, the people who don't complete you, but remind you of who you've always been. Twin flames are more than just romantic ideals. They're the kind of connection that feels electrifying, almost destined, as if two souls are mirrors reflecting back strengths, flaws, and dreams. Sometimes meeting your twin flame isn't smooth or easy. There's friction, there's growth, and even pain, but through it all, you're challenged to become more yourself. Like me doing this podcast. It's a relationship that urges you to dig deeper, that magnifies who you are and asks you to be honest, vulnerable, and brave. These connections don't solve your problems or fill in those missing pieces. Instead, they illuminate your path and inspire you to keep searching for authenticity and meaning in your life. In the end, Twin Flames teach us that love isn't just about finding someone to walk beside you, it's about discovering who you are together and then apart and embracing the journey that unfolds for both of you. And it's about the mystery of timing, how the universe always knows what it's doing, even if we don't. There's something about a connection that feels fated, like meeting someone who instantly feels familiar, who reflects parts of you back and pushes you to grow, sometimes in ways you've never expected. In many ways, these bonds remind you of who you've always been. So if you're like I was, skeptical of love, rolling your eyes at Valentine's Day specials, this one might surprise you. Because sometimes the best love story is the one you never saw coming. So let's get into it.
All right, I am back with Bryan and Jennie Drollinger because they are married now. If you
Same name.
yes, they late. Yes, exactly. So we talked about the high school years, and then we talked about the college mission distance years and the misconnection. And then you mentioned at the end of the last podcast, you both went on, married, but that there wasn't always happy endings with that. We will kind of skip over that part.
Yeah.
Just know that there was just a lot of heartache, lots of hard stuff. Choices not of your own. We'll just leave it there. But let's talk about the reconnection because I know um, Debbie and Jerry ended up reconnecting, and all of a sudden they're like, Jenny, Brian, and you're like, don't talk about Brian. So talk a little bit about that.
Debbie contacted me. It was like 2009 or something. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Jenny, Jerry's sister." I want them to tell their own story, but his sister had reached out to Debbie on Facebook or something and be like, You should contact Jerry. He's going through a really hard time. He never got over you. He still has all the letters you guys wrote, the notes in high school." And she's like, "What should I do?" I'm like, "Oh, you should reach out to him." And I said to her, I said, "You guys should have always been together." I felt it when we were together. And when she ended up moving from Alaska, the end of our sophomore year to Oklahoma. and Jerry would walk around, like, we'd run into each other, and our dads were friends. I saw Jerry more than I saw Bryan sometimes, and Jerry would just be like this little lost puppy dog, and we'd always be talking about Debbie. He's like, "When have you talked to Debbie? Have you got a letter from Debbie?" And then Debbie would call me long distance if you talked to Jerry, and, then it was me in the middle of both of them kinda sometimes. I actually went to, his first wedding reception with my parents and met his first wife, and she wasn't very nice to me, but, I was friends with Debbie, but, when Debbie announced this to me, I was like, "Oh my gosh." And then I started thinking, "Oh, well, first of all, I thought Jerry had died." My dad happened to be in Alaska in 2004, and he calls me and he says, "Hey, what were those boys' names that you hung out with in Eagle River?" And I was like, "Oh, Drollinger, Fulmer." She goes, "That's it. That's the Fulmer boys." I had to tell you this. They were up in the mountains, and they were all hooked together on harnesses, and one slipped and fell, and all of them fell to their death, and their funerals are this weekend. I'm like, "Jerry's dead?" I'm thinking Jerry, Troy, and his other brother. I thought for
Thought it was Jerry.
5 years Jerry Fulmer had died, and Troy. So, and when Debbie first announced, she was like, "Yeah, Jerry's sister said I should da 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 da." I was like, "Okay, what?" Because Debbie and I hadn't even spoken that he had died. Like, we didn't even talk about Alaska that I remember, and so I was like, "Jerry? Jerry what?" And so she was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then we figured it out, it was a relative of his. My dad had got
Because
confused,
well, it was same last name, so
but I was like, "He got resurrected in, like, 1 second, Debbie's telling me about Jerry." I'm like,
So in your
"So
mind, Bryan had died, and
yeah,
then you
well, yeah,
really
and
thought that
Jerry
Jerry
really
had
had died.
died, and neither one of them." So, anyway,
they were both alive.
it was just, like, mind-boggling, and I just was like, "Okay." So, long story, Debbie was going through a really difficult time in her marriage in Seattle, and Jerry was in Alaska. They, reconnected through family and friends and just messaged each other, and it took them a long time to, like, really get together, I would say, like,
Mhm.
years, not just they were just friends, with, like, oh, from a distance. And then when their marriages both ended, they, saw each other and got together, and then they got married. And when they got married, well, first of all, before they got married, Debbie was like, "Well, I'm going down to Vegas. We should have a girls' weekend, and Jerry's gonna be there, and he's staying with Bryan Drollinger. Wouldn't it be fun if you came with me?" And I'm like, "No, not
It was
doing
with
that."
the business I was in, and I was speaking, and Jerry was going there, and he was with me.
She's like, and I'm like,
Um,
"No, no, 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 no." I said, "Bryan is dead to me. If he ever asks what happened to Jenny's, tell him that I died. I don't want anything to do with it. Zero, nothing." "Okay, how's your daughter doing?" "How's the dog? Have you sold any homes lately?" She's a realtor in Seattle. So I was just like off topic. Nope, don't not going there. In fact, when they did get married, I didn't go. Had gone back to college, and I was in finals, and it was just a, crazy time, and I honestly didn't want to go because I was afraid that Bryan might be there, and I didn't wanna
and
see
I didn't go to it, but I mean,
because he and
Because
Jerry were still best
what did
friends.
you
yeah,
think about his life? Like,
Well, I Debbie had mentioned that he had kids. I didn't know how many. I thought you only I at that time, he had only 5, I don't know. He was successful, and he lived in Boise area, and she would send me I found this not too long, about a year ago, an old email on a webinar she invited me to that he was speaking at in an email, and I was like, No." My daughter's living I'd always go back to my daughter. "My daughter's in the Philippines right now serving a mission and da 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 da," and I just wouldn't even
yeah,
engage. I didn't want him to know anything about my life. I didn't want him to know where I was. I didn't want 0. There's like, it's I am none of your business. And so we share friends, but
yep.
I'm not coming around. So,
And I didn't know what was going on with her. I didn't know. I mean, I had my own life and
but Debbie
everything else.
did, while you were
Oh, yeah,
somewhere,
yeah.
come up to you.
There was a time when
Naughty, naughty.
when Debbie actually when Debbie actually said something to me like, um, "Jenny's mad at you," or something like that, and I like she goes, "You guys should just talk and
She
just,
did
like,
tell me that
just
once, though.
just like
Yeah.
just like because it's all miscommunication,"
"You're misunderstanding each other
and I'm
or
like,
something."
"Okay, well, I was like, whatever." I mean, I'm, I'm married,
I'm married.
and then she's married, so I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna, and
And yeah, she was saying, "'Cause you guys just need to talk, Jenny." Because I was like, I told her the story about the phone, and I remember saying something to her, and she goes, "Well, you guys just need to talk. You're just misunderstanding." She goes, "Jenny, he's really nice." I'm like, "No, he's nice. It's not. It's not. I don't want anything to do with him. I'm dead to him. The end." But then she would send, those little emails. You should watch.
so there was some of that, but we never connected
Uh-uh.
until 21 when I was going through my stuff with my divorce, and
Let's talk about that. So where
and
in
so
21, where were you both? Let's
I
start.
was in Boise, Idaho, in that area, and Jenny was Pocatello,
So we were at
Idaho. So
opposite
we're
ends
about
of the
three
state.
and a half
I
hours away
I had
from
just
each
moved
other.
back from Utah to Idaho, not for very long. I just been there for a little while and working at a law firm in southeastern Idaho, and he's in western
So
Idaho.
this is the crazy part. It's like she was a paralegal for a law firm. I was going through my stuff and I needed an attorney. Jerry, my best friend, calls me
You were not
going
of
through
your choice going
right,
through.
going through a divorce and everything. And won't get into all that. But
Jenny was already divorced at this
or
point.
no, she was no,
I'm getting, yeah,
she was
yeah.
getting
I
divorced
was
too.
going through
We
my
didn't know that
that
though.
that
We
are
didn't
going through the same
no idea.
opposite
And
ends of the state.
and so Jerry says you should call Jenny. And I'm like, Jenny from high school? Why would I call Jenny? And he goes, because Jenny's a paralegal in Idaho and her firm can help you get your attorney. Cause I was looking for an attorney and I didn't know I'd never had an attorney before. So, I mean, especially,
And who
in the
can you
situation.
trust? Like,
And who can I trust? And I'm like, okay. And so Debbie called you, right? And said, we want Brian to call you. I mean, it was like, you,
So
you
so
tell that
Debbie
story.
calls me.
So,
Well, before that, let's back up. A few weeks before that, I had met Jerry and Debbie down in Utah for lunch, and I had been down there for a family thing, and they just happened to be there. They had a home in Utah and one in Alaska, and so they happened to be at that home at that time, and we met for lunch, and it ended up being a 3.5 hour lunch, and it was mostly Jerry talking about how stressed out he was because Brian was calling him all the time with all these major
because
it's wrong.
I was going through that.
Debbie and I hardly spoke during that lunch. And I finally looked at Debbie, I was like, let's go to the bathroom. So we go to the bathroom. We're in the bathroom. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. She's like, no, Jerry is really stressed out because Brian's calling him like 3 or 4 times a day. And Jerry's trying to hunt in Alaska and he can't get any hunting done when Brian's calling him all the time. And I'm like, oh, well, too bad, too sad.
And I honestly was going through like a couple months of just
Crisis.
pure, like, I was like, oh, what am I doing? What am I going to do? With
But I
my life?
really didn't care.
I know you didn't.
I didn't care.
You didn't care. She didn't.
I was going through my own stuff.
Yeah,
And so I was like, why do I want to know about all his stuff, Jerry? I came to meet my friend for lunch and I wanted to talk to her, but now you're here and I can't talk to her openly because I'm afraid he's going to tell Brian I'm going through stuff. So I had to keep it all in. I couldn't talk to my friend and tell her what I was going through. So
So I called Jenny. And
Well,
he actually,
Debbie called me first and said, Jerry wants to give Bryan Drollinger your phone number. He needs some legal advice. I'm not sure what you could do about that, but he's driving us nuts and he needs someone to talk to. And Jerry's not an attorney to tell him what to do. So he needs some help. So will you be willing? Is it okay if we give him your number? And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I called my daughter, who's a mental health therapist, and she knows the story about Brian and I. And I asked her, what should I do? She goes, okay, mom, just be black and white, like you're doing an intake, like you don't know his voice. You don't know who he is. You don't know this person. Just, help him out and send him down the road.
yeah. It's been 32 years. I mean,
Right? So I don't even know what his voice would sound like
She knew him because his name was written.
in my scriptures.
Yeah. So,
Mom, who is this? I love Bryan Drollinger, 1985. I'm like, oh, well, make sure when you go to college, your roommate pays your phone bill. I literally told her that.
And
Like,
I
pay
didn't-
utilities.
and I didn't know any of that.
No,
Like, I didn't know
until
anything.
we reconnected.
And then, so I call her. She accepted the
you
phone
just want
call.
some legal advice.
Well, we were texting and you were already calling me. Like within 2 minutes of saying, okay, Bryan Drollinger comes up on my screen. And then
like, okay, I'm going to call.
I
Because
dropped my phone and I said, where the heck were you in 1989? And now you're calling me for, yeah.
Pretty much what it was. I was like,
So I
I need
let it go. I let it go. I
yeah.
didn't answer it. And then you texted me after that with a picture of you and your 2 grandkids. I was like, wow, he's a grandpa. That's a long time has gone by. We texted for a minute
Yeah.
and you said, hello, it's been a long time. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Been a few years.
So I was like,
Uh,
I can talk to you tomorrow. I can call you tomorrow. I was really busy and even if I wasn't busy, I probably wouldn't have picked up right then. So yeah,
she had to process it a little bit.
I had to yeah, and so I called him the Sunday night and it was just cut and dry. Okay, tell me what's going on. Just like my job. Okay, tell me about what's happening. You know, how many kids do you have? What assets do you have? And
What were your thoughts when he started telling you how many kids he had and all that stuff?
well, Debbie had told me prior, but when he actually said it and I could hear them in the background, I was like, wow. What happened to you? Because I remember a conversation on the phone with kids in the background on both our ends when we were teenagers babysitting. And he comes back to the phone after something and he says, I had to throw my brother down the stairs. So I wonder which brother that was.
I can
And
only
then he's like, I'm never having kids. I'm like, me neither. So I just went back to that conversation in my head. I'm like, okay. So anyway, I heard
And you have many kids. And
several.
seven
what
kids.
advice did you give him, Jenny? 'Cause
Oh, I said, "You know what? With everything that you have, it'd probably be best if you guys could stay
Figure it out.
together and stay married,
Yeah.
figure this out, because divorce is hell and will turn your insides out with what you have. You might wanna in your best interest, honestly, you'd probably be better off just staying together if you could. Get therapy." And he
Yeah,
was
we
like,
did, we
"We
tried.
did. We went through all that. She doesn't want anything to do with me." And I was like, "Well, maybe you should try a little harder," which you did.
Which I did,
You
yeah.
wrote her a song and you
Yep.
produced it at the same studio
Yeah.
that you wrote
Oh,
my
that's
song.
funny, yeah, it actually that is actually true, yeah, and
And then, okay, so I went to my work. I went to work the next day, talked to my attorneys, found him a couple of options, and
in Boise, 'cause
and
it's
said they can refer. So
I was able to get an
we
attorney.
got that, and I was like, "Oh, good. He's going down the right
Mm,
road, and
you're
we're
like,
not."
bye.
Yep, basically, because then I'm like, "Oh gosh, I don't have to see him.
so
He
that was
doesn't need
and
to
then
know anything about me." Oh, no, but that first phone call, I forgot about this. When we did all I did the intake call, the
okay,
just
intake, right.
cut and dry. We hung up, my kids were coming over for Sunday dinner, and, I said, "I gotta go," and 10 minutes later, you called me back. And you said, "Why" at the end of the first phone call, you said, "Hey, Jenny, before you go, why didn't we end up getting together?" And I was like,
Well, 'cause I didn't
"What?"
'cause
I said, "You know
I
what?
didn't
Let's have that conversation another time. Let's get your attorney, and I'll text you tomorrow,
yeah,
and you can start the process, and goodbye."
yeah,
So then
'cause I really wanted to I
Did
really
you
wanted
forget? Did you forget about the like phone call thing?
yes. Yeah, I forgot about a lot of that, and
he was actually
I
a
was
bona fide mess. Like, when I talked to
Oh, just
him,
emotional
I was like,
turmoil. Yeah.
whoa, like
yeah, I was,
looping, and I was like, "Okay, okay, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay." I actually did feel really sorry for him. I was like, "Oh, I think I feel bad I cursed your name so many times now. It's just my fault." I felt bad, and so,
yeah,
I was just like, "Let's just get you taken care of and get down the right road. It's gonna be okay." And then that's when you call me back 10 minutes later, persistent. "This is Brian. Why didn't we get together? No, I wanna know right now. Can you please tell me what happened?" I was like, "Okay, really quick. My roommate didn't pay the phone bill. The phone got disconnected because she didn't pay it." And he was, like, dead quiet. He was like, "So did you still liked me?" And I was like, yeah. I came looking for you. I tried to find you." And dead quiet. "Who do I strangle?" That's what you said next. And I was like, and I said her name, but I'm not
that's
gonna say it. And
yeah, it was kinda crazy, it
he was
just,
like,
like,
"What? Are you serious?" And I'm like,
just thinking about it, I was like, "Wow, that's
"Yeah,
crazy."
yeah."
You finally got your conversation to explain what happened, but
Yeah,
it's 32
yeah,
years
yeah,
later.
and yes, and then
And
And then
and yes, and then I went through all my stuff and, I got my attorney, all those things I had to do, and a month later, I'm
in between him
in
texting
between
me nonstop, he switched over from Jerry to me now. And I'm like,
well,
"Brian,
I
I'm
will
aware."
I was still texting
you
Jerry too.
mentioned before the book. as sure as the stars, about their story because Bryan met me and found out I was an author, and then he got my number, and then he texted, and then he called, and then he told me a story, then he called, and then he told me a story,
I am very
text,
persistent. I wanna know
and then he
something, I wanna
wanted
know it
me
now.
to meet Jenny, and I talked to her, and she was in the hospital. She's like, "I can't talk right now. I'm at the hospital." I'm like, "I'm just well, Bryan, it's okay." So then finally, I heard the whole story from Jenny. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a book. Like this. So Bryan's persistence does pay off. I will say that when he
Oh,
believes in
Yeah.
something,
I just want it and I go for it. Right, yeah.
and I wanna back up just a minute if I could. Before this all went down with Debbie and Jerry luncheon and then the Brian, text, "Can we give him your number?" January of 2021, I was putting Christmas decorations away, and I knew
Mhm.
that that relationship I was in at that time was going away. And I was really struggling with it. And I was like, why am I even here? Why did I come back to Idaho? I should be in Salt Lake. And I'm a Salt Lake girl. I don't know why I'm here. And I was sifting through some mementos and like high school memorabilia, and I came across because I was consolidating things because I knew I was going to be moving out of that house, and I was just preparing. And I found a picture of Bryan and I dancing that my parents had taken 1985 at the dance that he drank my root beer float at. And I'm like, why do I have this picture of us? I threw it in the garbage bin among some other things. And a couple hours later, I went
As
back
she
out.
was cursing my name.
Yeah. And there was like something with Alyeska with your name on it and your address,
How do I have
Chinitlu or
this?
something. Anyway, so I threw that all away. A couple hours later, I go back out to the bin and I see my Wasilla Warriors 87, 88 calendar. This year I graduated from high school. And I was like, oh, why did I throw that away? I should save that. So I grabbed that out of the bin, threw it in another bin. Didn't pay any attention to it. I also threw my journal away. There was like a 3-ring binder journal. I'm like, it was just like stupid stuff like Nick Rhodes from Duran Duran is fine. And it's like just stupid stuff. Like I watched Entertainment Tonight and they interviewed John Taylor, or
John
Yeah,
Taylor was something
that
good.
is kinda stupid, I think.
there's nothing of substantial value that my kids would be like read someday or be like, oh, it was just like dumb. So I just threw it all away, just getting rid of downsizing. So I threw it all away. After we reconnected, it'd been a few months. I was in my cute little bungalow apartment and I was reorganizing some boxes and bins, and I went through it, and what in the world did I ever find? It was this calendar with some of like 23 or 24 pages of this 3-ring binder. When it blew open after I threw it in the garbage bin, broke out, and some of those pages fell in between the pages of the calendar. And I'm pulling it out, looking at it. I'm like, I thought I threw this away. And I'm looking at it and I see Bryan Drollinger's name. I see Debbie Short. I see Jerry Fulmer. And then I see Star somewhere. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like looking at it, and it was the whole entire story
Story.
of when I met Bryan,
Amazing.
September 1985, that I wrote it like about a year later. But it was the whole story. It was like right there. And it
Those
was
were
like
the pages that slid into the calendar.
Yeah,
literally out of the binder. Those are the
crazy.
only pages out of the whole entire binder. It gives me goosebumps. And I call Bryan and I'm reading through it. And I'm kind of like, well, now I kind of know why you were kind of a jerk to me, because I kind of wasn't nice to you sometimes either.
I'm glad she found those pages.
And then
Exactly.
the class ring. And there were some
Yeah,
other things that I totally forgot about.
yeah.
And it
But you
was
had
just,
written it down, and so then, yeah.
isn't that weird? Like
But the photo, that was
gone.
Yeah, the photo.
Never to be found ever again. It was just back in those days in Alaska, we would send our film to Seattle Filmworks in Seattle to get developed, and we wouldn't get it back for 2 or 3 weeks. And I have no idea where the film would be.
Yeah.
My parents have moved several times. They don't keep that stuff. Why would you
yeah.
keep old film like that? So it's gone.
Yep.
Sad.
So a month
So then he called there
so
9 months later, I'm talking to him on the phone.
9 months later. And
Yeah.
then the next month is when I went down to Pocatello.
Which we're gonna
Which
save that
we'll
for the
talk
next
about,
episode,
yes, and that was
because this is like literally like if you've liked all these other stories, the one coming up is like the best because they
Uh,
see each other for the first time and it's not what you think.
Oh,
It is not what you
oh,
think.
that's true, yeah.
Treasure.
Oh, like, okay. Yeah,
Okay, so,
alright.
um, and little bits and pieces, like, if you read As Sure as the Stars, you're gonna definitely see, like, all this stuff. It's not exactly because it's, it's gonna be
It's so cute and adorable.
it's a novel, and in the novel, we'll go back to 1980s and then modern day.
Yep.
We gave the character okay, Jenny picked the names of the characters, and As Sure as the Stars. So what are the name of the characters that represent you and Brian in the novel?
Jake is
I
Brian. Jake. Yeah. Is
And the
it from like a
girl
certain
is
movie
yeah,
from the 80s?
yeah,
Yeah. Kelly.
yeah,
I'm
Kelly and
Kelly.
Jake.
yeah,
Kelly and Jake. Jake and Kelly.
yep. It is so cute. I'm even though I wrote it, I have to say it's so cute, but you gave me so much good material to work with. Okay, but we are gonna end it here. We're gonna come back. Literally, there's so many like amazing moments and reconnection and sweet moments. And so you definitely have to stay tuned for the next episode.
And it's love.